And the way we try to get intelligence as the world changes from a Cold War to terrorist threats that can come at us from almost anywhere at any time in nimble, quick, dynamic ways. Were you aware at all of the fatwa that Osama bin Laden had put out in February of 1998 that said that he wanted to kill Americans, all Americans, everywhere he could, whether that was in the Middle East or in the United States of America?
The answer to that is yes, and we had briefings that, our own briefings, I think we could even provide a date back to 1998 where we called Osama bin Laden the most dangerous man in the world. And our focus with the demise of the Soviet Union, Warsaw Pact, in accordance with the Hart-Rugman study, was that we felt like the greatest threat to the United States would come from a terrorist, a rogue nation, or I should say a nation of concern.
And then were you aware of George Tenet's statement in December of 1998 that the United States was at war with Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda?
I don't recall that, but I suppose I was generally aware of that the United States was at war with terrorism around the world.
Central to the September 11 plot was bin Laden's determination to carry out a terrorist operation inside the United States. The joint inquiry, therefore, reviewed information the intelligence community held before September 11th that suggested that an attack within the United States was a possibility. Our review confirmed that shortly after bin Laden's May 1998 press conference, the community began to acquire intelligence that bin Laden's network intended to strike within the United States. Many of these reports were disseminated throughout the community and to senior U.S. policymakers. These intelligence reports should be understood in their proper context. First, they generally did not contain specific information as to where, when, and how a terrorist attack might occur, and generally, they were not corroborated. Second, these reports represented a small percentage of the threat information that the intelligence community obtained during this period, most of which pointed to the possibility of attacks against U.S. interests overseas. Nonetheless, there was a modest but relatively steady stream of intelligence indicating the possibility of terrorist attacks inside the United States. Third, the credibility of the sources providing this information was sometimes questionable. While one could not, as a result, give too much credence to some of the individual reports, the totality of the information in this body of reporting clearly reiterated a consistent and critically important theme: that bin Laden's intent to launch terrorist attacks within the United States. The joint inquiry reviewed many intelligence reports, including 1. In June 1998, the intelligence community obtained information from several sources that bin Laden was considering attacks in the United States, including Washington, D.C. and New York. This information was provided to senior government officials in July of 1998. 2. In August of 98, the intelligence community obtained information that a group of unidentified Arabs planned to fly an explosive-laden plane from a foreign country into the World Trade Center. The information was passed to the FBI and the FAA. The latter found the plot to be highly unlikely given the state of the foreign country's aviation program. Moreover, the agencies believed that a flight originating outside the United States would be detected before it reached its intended target inside the United States. The FBI's New York office took no action on the information, filing the communication in the office's bombing file. The intelligence community acquired additional information since then, suggesting links between this group and other terrorist groups, including al-Qaeda. 3. In September of 1998, the intelligence community prepared a memorandum detailing al-Qaeda's infrastructure in the United States, including the use of fronts for terrorist activities. This information was provided to senior government officials in September of 1998. 4. In September of 1998, the intelligence community obtained information that bin Laden's next operation might involve flying an explosive-laden aircraft into a U.S. airport and detonating it. This information was provided to senior government officials in late 1998. 5. In October of 1998, the intelligence community obtained information that al-Qaeda was trying to establish an operative cell within the United States. This information suggested an effort to recruit U.S. citizen Islamists and U.S.-backed expatriates from the Middle East and North Africa. 6. In the fall of 1998, the intelligence community received information concerning a bin Laden plot involving aircraft in New York and Washington, D.C. areas. 7. In November 1998, the intelligence community obtained information that a bin Laden terrorist cell was attempting to recruit a group of 5 to 7 men from the United States to travel to the Middle East for training in conjunction with a plan to strike U.S. domestic targets. 8. In November 1998, the intelligence community received information that bin Laden and senior associates had agreed to allocate rewards for the assassination of 4 top intelligence agency officers. The bounty for each assassination was $9 million. The bounty was in response to the U.S. announcement of an increase in the reward for information leading to bin Laden's arrest. 9. In the spring of 1999, the intelligence community obtained information about a planned bin Laden attack on a government facility in Washington, D.C. 10. In August 1999, the intelligence community obtained information that bin Laden's organization had decided to target the U.S. Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and DCI Cofer Black, and was interpreted by intelligence analysts to mean assassinate. 11. In September 1999, the intelligence community obtained information that bin Laden and others were planning a terrorist act in the United States, possibly against specific landmarks in California and New York City. 12. In late 1999, the intelligence community obtained information regarding possible bin Laden network plans to attack targets in New York, D.C., Washington, D.C., during the Millennium celebrations. 13. On December 14, 1999, Ahmed Rassam was arrested as he attempted to enter the United States from Canada, and chemicals and detonator materials were found in his car. Rassam's intended target was Los Angeles International Airport. Rassam later determined to have links to bin Laden's terrorist network. 14. In February of 2000, the intelligence community obtained information that bin Laden was making plans to assassinate U.S. intelligence officials, including the director of the FBI. 15. In March 2000, the intelligence community obtained information regarding the types of targets that operatives in bin Laden's network might strike. The Statue of Liberty was specifically mentioned, as were skyscrapers, ports, airports, and nuclear power plants. 16. In March 2000, the intelligence community obtained information suggesting that bin Laden was planning attacks in specific West Coast areas, possibly involving the assassination of several public officials. 17. In April 2001, the intelligence community obtained information from a source with terrorist connections who speculated that bin Laden was interested in commercial pilots as potential terrorists. The source warned that the United States should not focus only on embassy bombings, that terrorists sought spectacular and traumatic attacks, and that the first World Trade Center bombing would be the type of attack that would be appealing. The source did not mention a time frame for an attack, because the source was offering personal speculation and not hard information. The information was not disseminated within the intelligence community. The joint inquiry did not find any comprehensive intelligence community list of bin Laden-related threats to the United States that was prepared and presented to policymakers before September 11th. Such a compilation might have highlighted the volume of information the intelligence community had acquired about bin Laden's intention to strike inside the United States. Nonetheless, the intelligence community did not leave unnoticed bin Laden's February 1998 declaration of war and intelligence reports indicating possible terrorist attacks inside the United States. The community advised senior officials, including the Congress, of the serious nature of the threat. The joint inquiry also reviewed documents other than intelligence reports that demonstrate that the intelligence community, at least at senior levels, understood the threat bin Laden posed to the domestic United States. For example, a December 1998 Intelligence Committee assessment that bin Laden is actively planning against U.S. targets. Multiple reports indicate that Osama bin Laden is keenly interested in striking the United States on its own soil. Al-Qaeda is recruiting operatives for attacks in the United States, but has not yet identified potential targets. The December 1998 Declaration of War memorandum from the Director of Central Intelligence to his deputies at the CIA, quote, "We must now enter a new phase in our efforts against bin Laden. We all acknowledge that retaliation is inevitable and that its scope may be far larger than we have previously experienced. We are at war. I want no resources or people spared in this effort, either inside CIA or the intelligence community," end quote. A document prepared by the CIA and signed by the president in December of 1998, quote, "The intelligence community has strong indications that bin Laden intends to conduct or sponsor attacks inside the United States," end quote. In June 1999, testimony to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence by the Counterterrorism Center Chief, Cofer Black, and a July 1999 briefing to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence staff members describing reports that bin Laden and his associates were planning attacks inside the United States. A document prepared by the CIA and signed by the president in July of 1999 characterizing bin Laden's February 1998 statement as a de facto declaration of war on the United States. In testimony before the joint inquiry, however, former National Security Advisor Sandy Berger put this information in context. Quote, "The stream of threat information we received continuously from the FBI and CIA pointed overwhelmingly to attacks on U.S. interests abroad. Certainly the potential for attacks in the United States was there," end quote.